Jennifer, first of all, thanks a lot for letting me join you today. It's a real pleasure and an honor to see you all there. I'm just going to run through some ideas, okay? I'm just going to throw ideas at you. You can follow me on your devices now, and you'll see with this Nearpod ad, which is fantastic. As I go through my slides here, you're able to follow with me, okay, in front of you, so you don't get sick of looking at my face. Okay, as Jen has made really clear, the classroom architecture is hugely important, and increasingly so as we get more and more data on it. One of my favorite reports, or most interesting, reports that I found came from Manchester, the University of Salford recently, which found that classroom design can affect student performance by up to 25% in a given year. So if this holds up, if this is true, then we need to give a lot more thought to how we are organizing our room. Jen gave a great introduction there, and I want to ride on the coattails of that about using your wall space for connections, and for fostering flexibility in your teaching environment. Okay, I want to play a little game with you. Does everyone see a photograph in front of them on their device? Yes? I'm going to show you two photographs, and I'm going to ask you a question, okay? In which classroom do you think the students were happier? Here with their room. Here in classroom A, are here in classroom B. Do you think students were happier in classroom A or here in classroom B? Now I'd like you to vote very quickly for me. You should see in front of you an option to vote. Simply click for A or B. If you think students in classroom A were happier with their room, click A. B, click B. Okay? Oh, you sneaky people. I can see a lot of B's.
You see how you can use this in your classroom so you have students who are actually, having to engage.
Yeah, and of course, my talk here will be a little bit low tech, but the point is that we're using the Nearpod app as a way of really modeling what you can do with technology, and it's what Jen is saying, it's the why. That's what I love about Nearpod. We can engage here via Skype while getting our point across. It's a really neat app, actually. Okay, we're seeing the information come through, and the majority, a slight majority, 40% are 40 are saying, oh, hang on, it's swinging back. Actually, we're about 50-50 between the two rooms, okay? Well, then half of you are going to be surprised that students in room B here were happier. Now, I've been carrying out research in Ulm, where I live here in Germany. I've been surveying about 600 students, and what's clear is students are happier where they control the wall space, where they have control over what goes on their wall space. And what you see here in picture A is that it's quite clearly micromanaged by the teacher. It's beautiful, it's very pretty, but it's not the students. They don't own it. And so what I guess we want are classrooms that are pretty, of course, aesthetically pleasing, but also that have student input. So I'm going to try and quickly give you an idea of how you can do that, okay? I'm going to skip over here. This is just what I told you, that I've conducted a lot of research on what classroom environment students prefer. Unsurprisingly, students in the primary schools were much happier with their classrooms than students in the second level schools. And here in Germany, it's not hard to understand when this is your typical second level classroom. Okay? And in extreme cases, this is a typical classroom. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't feel too motivated going into that classroom. I don't feel too excited. And one thing that we can clearly say is, well, that classroom isn't in any way supporting or furthering my learning. There's nothing on there, okay? So it's sad, but this, I mean, it does happen. There's a lot of classrooms that look like this. So look, what can we do? One guy who wrote a lot about your classroom walls is Creekmore. He came up with this brilliant idea in the 80s, 87, where he was talking about a traditional classroom where it's all rows and you face the blackboard. And his idea was that the front wall, where the students look most often, should be an acquisition wall. And on there you should put the most important ideas. So if you're doing mathematics, You might want to put Pythagoras' theorem up beside the board, okay? Then he had on the side a maintenance wall. Usually there's only 3 walls in a classroom, right? Because one wall is for natural light, windows. And on this maintenance wall, he said, oh, we should put information the students need to remember for the end of a unit test or something like that. And then on the back wall, he called it a dynamic wall. That's where students should have freedom to hang their work, to interact with one another. It should be a social space. Now, I love what Creekmore thought of, but I think it's time to give it a bit of a 21st century update. I'm thinking, what instead of a maintenance wall? Because when I hear maintenance, I think holding on to. Holding on to for what? For a summative assessment, for an end-of-unit test. I don't like the idea of just displaying information just for an end-of-unit test, and then it's gone. You know how you do a test, you cram for it, and then you forget it by Monday. I like the idea instead of a process wall, what I would call a process wall. So imagine an architect's office, okay? The architect is working very hard. The architect, his office is alive with thoughts and ideas. It's got plans, it's got sketches and drawings. Of course, the building that he eventually builds is downtown somewhere, but his office is alive with ideas and the thinking process. Well, I think a classroom should be the very same, because too often we see on the walls just posters and blocks of text. They're finished products. But I find that it's much more interesting to see how do we get to that point. Okay? And there are ways we can do that. In front of you right now, I don't know if we have time to go into it, there is, from the Harvard Graduate School of Education, there's Project Zero. This is, I guess, a project that's looking at what they call visible thinking. This is a bunch of routines that you can do with your students that shows their thinking process. So you can see how students get from point A to point B in the learning process. So I'm thinking, well, instead of just having this in kids' copybooks, evidence of how they think, making their thinking visible, well, why not whack it up on the wall, on a process wall, from start to finish in a project? And that way, not only are the students aware of how they think and what they're learning, but everyone who comes into our classroom is seeing the thinking process. They're getting excited and hooked in as well. The classroom becomes a thinking-rich environment. Now, I'm going to put you here onto the next slide. On your devices, you could click here on this link. And what this link is a very simple routine that Project Zero Visible Thinking do. It's called a See, Think, Wonder. It's as simple as it sounds. This is great when you're introducing a topic, okay? You're starting a class on a topic. Let's just say architecture of the classroom, what we're doing now. Let's say myself and Jennifer are teaching a lesson on this. I might want to use an image. Let's say I'm going to use that image of the classroom that I heard the sighs when you saw it, I heard the gasps. Well, we could use this picture, for example. Using a See, Think, Wonder routine, I would ask you to write down everything you see. So you see, and I'll do it for you because we don't have time. I see a desk, I see chairs, I see a crucifix, I see windows which are too high above the students' heads. What does that make me think? What does that make me wonder? I wonder how students are motivated here. I wonder, do students not come to school because they don't like their environment? So on and so on. Now, in fact, I did actually do this with my students here at the University of Augsburg. We took this image while talking about architecture, and we turned it into a way of getting every pedagogy student who comes into our classroom, every lecturer who comes in here, to stop and think about architecture. And here's what one group did. They took this picture and turned it into a See, Think, Wonder, which is, what do you think when you see this image? What do you see? So instead of our static, old-style boards where I present blocks of information and you consume it, instead when you come to this presentation that these students did, you see their picture here on the bottom of this wall display. You don't get to just stand there at this board and consume. You have to engage and think. And that way, learning isn't just confined to the classroom. We can get it outside the doors. Anyone who comes into our classroom is forced to think about what it is we're doing. They come on our learning journey with us. And I really like it. This group here, not only do they use visible thinking routines, but also they used graphic organizers, so a spider graph in this case, to show what is the key information that I need to know if I'm looking at this board, as well as forcing me to think. Now I'm just going to whiz through this, which is color. Like I said, I'm flying through all of this, but you can, if you're interested, ask me more on my Twitter handle. And Jennifer touched on this, the importance of color. I find color, this is so amazing. One thing right here in Munich, right where I am, near to me, in 1973, a big study found that in classrooms the students found beautiful. They performed up to 12 points higher on an IQ test. And what did they find beautiful? They found blue, yellow, and green beautiful. So I want to ask you, why the heck are all our rooms white? That's what students found ugly, white, black and brown. They were ugly colours. Yet so many classrooms are these colours. And there's any number of reasons with administration, with blah, 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 why we can't paint them. Now, this is one I love. In orange rooms, friendly words and smiles increased by 53%. I thought that was cool. So again, in a project, you see it here behind me actually as well. We just did this last week, this display, and the students took it to heart. You can see how to use green, which is beautiful, orange, which is makes people smile, and they use that to brighten up their room. Now, let me just see where you all are, and I can show you here maybe. What I love about this wall display is anyone who comes into this classroom has to interact with it. They have this a box here where you can put your ideas and interpretations. They have key information and facts. But again, they have these see, think, wonder. You stand in front of this board. It's not telling you what to do. You have to think. You know, it gives you the basic facts you need to stimulate the thinking process. Now, I'm just going to go back and see where we are in our Nearpod. I'm flying through this. Like I said, I hope to just maybe spark something. Some of the things we've learned here as a group while working on the architecture of our walls, while working on interactive displays is, you can see in this slide on your device in front of you, you need to have 3 levels of titles if you want to pull people into your classroom. The first one should be like this huge overhead which says exactly what we're talking about. Come on in here and learn. That can be written as a headline routine, which is another Project Zero visible thinking routine, which you can look up online afterwards. Then you see here teamwork and architecture. These are the secondary titles. And then we would have a specific title which shows the facts that are most important. So to finish up, and I think I'll get you out on time, right, Jennifer? Here are six key points that we've been learning about, that we've learned here through doing here at the university, me and my pedagogy students. Well, some of the things we've learned is that setting up your boards, it takes time. Just getting this background paper on there, getting your borders on there. Enjoy it. It's a collaborative project. It's a chance to build a team spirit. It's a chance to get students collaborating together. The color matters. I wish you could see how drab, actually you can see how drab this room is. This room is a typical sterile lecture room that we have here. It's quite awful, you know. We bring pedagogy students in here and we expect them to go out and create beautiful classrooms, but how are we going to do it if we don't model it? So we do. I would say another thing is, make sure your headings, if you want to pull people into your classroom and have them share in your learning experience, make sure you have 3 types of heading. The big one, which we're missing on this display, ones like here, team, and then the ones which, when you're at the board, pull you into the more nuanced information. You should use graphic organizers, which structure your ideas logically. And again, evidence from John Hattie and McRell there in the US says that this is one of the best ways to structure student thinking. And finally, make sure to get online and look at that Project Zero website, the Visible Thinking Routines from Harvard. Absolutely fantastic. For your teaching as well as for your displays. I have found it revolutionary. Okay? And that's it. I'll just throw all that out there. I'm sorry if it's fast, and I'm sorry if you can't understand my accent. But, you know, get in touch if there's anything I can do, or maybe Jen will have something.
Yeah, you were wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. It's a huge pleasure for me to talk to you all in Florida. They're fantastic.
So much, Owen. And everybody will look for you on Twitter. So I'll talk to you later.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.